Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Dean Crow with the Raleigh Foundation for Childhood Cancer Research, and we are so excited to be able to have this opportunity for y'all to hear directly from the program manager and to see how you can best submit applications. And I'm going to turn this over real quickly to Marcy, who is our grant manager.
Hi, this is Marcy. Thanks so much for joining today. We will have a recording available and I will send it out following the meeting. Please do mute yourselves if you haven't done so already. You'll see the icon of the microphone and you can just tap on that to make sure that we don't have any extra feedback. If you do have questions, please enter them in the chat. You'll see that at the bottom of your control panel. You can send questions directly to the whole group and we will field those and review them at the very end, given the time that we have allowed. If you have questions specifically for me or for the presenter, please send those directed to Dean Crow. You'll just select her name at the chat and it'll come through and we will see that on our end. Now I'm happy to introduce Dr. Donna Kimbark, Program Manager. We're grateful for your time today and I'm going to turn this over to you now. Thanks, Donna.
Thank you very much. It's great to be able to address everyone. I'm going to talk a little bit today about the congressionally directed medical research programs. Specifically, I'm going to talk about the peer-reviewed research program and a little bit about our funding opportunities as well as our application review process. I really hope today to give you some strategies for success and also to show you what pitfalls we've seen in the past so that you can avoid them. I'm just waiting to get, Marcy, I don't seem to have control of the slides right now. Marcy? If you could advance to slide 2. Let me tell you a little bit about the congressionally directed medical research programs as we're waiting for us to move the slides forward. The congressionally directed medical research program is part of the Department of Defense. Specifically, we sit with the Department of the Army. We are part of the Army Medical Command, and we sit up at Fort Detrick at the Medical Research and Material Command. We are part of one of their offices. We go to the next slide, please. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about who the CDMRP is in length a little bit so you can get a feel for how to apply to our programs overall. And then I'll go specifically more into the PRCRP. The vision of the CDMRP is to transform healthcare for service members in the American public through innovative and impactful research. What we're really looking for is that groundbreaking, high-impact research that's going to change the landscape, not only for the research community, but for the patients as well. It's really important for us to change things for patient care. And that's why part of our mission is responsibly managing collaborative research that discovers and develops and delivers healthcare solutions for service members, veterans, and the American public. If you can go to the next slide, please. Who is the CDMRP really, and how did we get to be part of the DoD budget? A lot of people ask me that. How is cancer relevant to the military? I'm actually going to answer that question for you today throughout the series of slides that I'm going to be talking about. But the CDMRP came to be a little bit over 25 years ago with the advent of adding breast cancer funds to the DoD appropriation. And I want to make that a point that we are added to the DoD appropriation. We are not part of the president's budget. So on a yearly basis, we really don't know if we're going to exist again. So it's really important for us to make an impact and do things with an urgency. And I think that's important. We want to do things with an urgency. So we fund high impact, innovative research. We avoid duplication with other funding agencies, and we target those unfunded, unmet gaps. That's really important because of the fact that we're looking for not to be a competitor with other agencies of the federal government or non-federal federal agencies. We want to be a partner. And being a partner means that we're not going to do duplicative research. We want to do things that are complementary. So that's really where we're focused on. How are we going to do this then? How are we going to solicit those applications, and how are we going to review it? Back in the day when we first started out, we went to the Institutes of Medicine, now called the National Academy of Medicine, and asked them, how should we solicit applications? How should we review these applications? So they recommended a model for application review, and I'm going to go into that in depth. That's what part of this talk today is going to be about. A crucial part of who we are, it's just really a foundation part of CDMRP, is consumers that participate throughout the process. Who are consumers? Consumers are lay people that are either affected by the disease, the condition, or the injury, or they're caretakers. Why do we call them consumers? Because they're the end person that's going to use the product that will come out of the research. So it's really, our focus is all about the consumer, not only to bring them in to be part of clinical trials and so on, but also to be part of the process in and of itself, the process of peer review and programmatic review. Consumers come to the table and are full voting members at that table for us. We annually adapt our program's vision and investment strategy to allow that rapid response. We don't know if we're going to be around next year, so we want to make as much of a big splash as we possibly can. We go to the next slide, please. This is all of the funding that CDMRP has for FY18. You can see it's quite a bit. It's over $1 billion that we are now managing and executing. You can see it goes from bone marrow failure to kidney cancer to neurofibromatosis, Parkinson's. There's also some that are more militarily focused, like our orthotics and our spinal cord injury. But then we have the peer review cancer program that's coming in at $80 million. That's an important point to make out because we have changed it. And we have 17 topic areas. If we go to the next slide, please. We have 17 topic areas this year. The topic areas have changed on a year-to-year basis. The very first year in FY09, we had 4 topic areas. Now we have 17 topic areas. The very first year in fiscal year 09, we had $16 million. This year we have $80 million. Our new topic areas for fiscal year 18 are adrenal cancer, blood cancer, which has been with us before but dropped out and now it's back again, and myeloma, which is a kind of blood cancer, but it's been called out by Congress. I want to make a point that none of these topic areas did I pick out, okay? It's really important for you to note that I don't sit in my office and think, what cancers are we going to fund this year? This is something that the advocates do. They go up to Congress, they tell Congress what needs to be done, and the advocates, people like you or people that are your patients and so on, go up to the Hill and ask for these funds to be added to the DoD appropriation and ask for the topic area to be added to peer review cancer research program. Our applicants must address at least one of these topic areas as directed by Congress. The funds cannot be used for breast, prostate, ovarian, kidney, or lung cancers. And that's an important thing to note because of the fact that these are all have their own research programs. So we're not going to put our money towards them. We want to put our money towards these topic areas. You'll note that we have things like immunotherapy and listeria-based regimens for cancer. They're more broadly based and they're more research areas than actual cancers. So that's why we have to have that language in there, that we don't want to cover those types of cancers. The research progress also has to be relevant to service members and their families. And I'm going to show you how cancer can be relevant to service members and their families. If we go to the next slide, please. As I said, in fiscal year 09, we had $16 million. And you can see that nice incline that goes, oh, I'm a little bit farther. Can you go back one? You can see that nice incline that goes all the way up to $80 million in fiscal year 18. If you look at the numbers on each one of those columns, that's how many grants we were able to make those during those years. And for the Peer Review Cancer Research Program, or what I like to call PRC, we are really about advancing mission readiness for U.S. service members that are affected by cancer, and also to improve the quality of life of those affected by cancer by decreasing the burden of cancer on service members, their families, and the American public. How do we do that? We do that by successfully promoting high-impact research for cancer prevention, detection, treatment, and survivorship. I like to call that the cancer care spectrum. If we go to the next slide, please. How have we found, I told you we have a number of different topic areas this year. We had 17 topic areas this year. In fiscal year 17, we had 14 different topic areas. Each year we have different topic areas. It's always a little bit like a grab bag of what we're going to get each year. You can see our pie here from FY09 through 16. This does not include 17 because 17 is currently being negotiated. But you can see we have 09 through 16, and these are the topic areas that were included. Some years they were not included. That's an important point to make, that not all of these are with us each and every year. So for instance, melanoma and other skin cancers is the only topic area that we have had from FY09 through FY18. It's the only topic area. So of course it has the largest slice of the pie. Pediatric brain tumors up near the top of that pie, you can see has 6% of that pie. And that's because it comes and goes and comes back again. So that's problematic when we talk about how big is the slice of pie that you're going to get. So that's one of the things we want to talk about as we move through this briefing today. If we go to the next slide, we can talk a little bit about actually just that. The next slide shows us about how the different topic areas have played out throughout the years for the targeted topic areas for today's talk: cancer in children, adolescents, and young adults, neuroblastoma, pediatric brain tumors, and pediatric cancer. As you can see, there's been some waxing and waning of some of these topic areas. For instance, pediatric brain tumor started with us in fiscal year 09. It disappeared in fiscal year 11, though we did have pediatric cancer. And you can see that it came back again. Pediatric brain tumor came back again in fiscal year 12 through 14, but then disappeared and then came back. So we've had some on and off there that does affect how we're getting the word out, as well as ensuring that we're going to get a robust receipt for those. Now, cancers in children, adolescents, and young adults, it's an important topic area to think about. And I'd like you to draw your attention to the bottom of that slide. What is the definition of adolescents and young adults, as well as children themselves? And what we come to is the National Cancer Institute's definition, and that's what we use because we want to be consistent with other funding organizations. So cancer studied under this topic area should be within the scope of the congressional language and the intent of the program announcements. It's important that cancer should be targeted towards children, which are 0 to 14 years of age, or adolescents, which are 15 to 24 years of age, and or young adults, which are 25 to 39 years of age. It's a tip for success here is to really target where you're going to go. Don't just say you're going to do children and just go from 0 to 39. We all know that a 3-year-old is going to react and the cancer is going to be different than somebody that's 27 years old. So it's really important to target your proposal in your research towards those different groups appropriately. If we go to the next slide, that would be slide 10. We can see how the money has played out for the pediatric cancer funding history. from 09 all the way to 2017. I showed you how much money we had as a funding organization for PRCRP in a previous slide, but here you can see that the total congressional appropriations, including FY18, which we have not solicited those applications yet. We almost have about $340 million. The total pediatric cancer topic area applications received through FY17, that's last year, is 675. The amount of awards that we've made are 43 through FY16, but if you add in that 18 more that we're currently negotiating, you get over 60 awards that have been made for the pediatric cancer topic areas that are designated at the top of that slide. If we go to the next slide, please. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the general program cycle. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of what PRCRP is, as well as how we move through the program cycle and those tips that I'm talking to you about. First of all, we have a congressional appropriation. That's our $80 million. That starts the whole wheel-in process. As you can see, the stakeholders meeting only happened the first year of the program, so we haven't had one since 2009. The most important meeting right now that we're talking about is our vision setting meeting. This is the meeting that we like to call our investment strategy meeting. We have a panel of experts that includes clinicians, research scientists, consumers, as well as active duty service members. They are active duty oncologists, come together to discuss the research landscape, what's important, and what has been identified as gaps in that research landscape, as well as military relevance for our program. And from that, we get our investment strategy. Our investment strategy is then translated to what we like to call program announcements or funding opportunities. Those funding opportunities are then released to the public, and we have pre-application receipt. Pre-applications are where you may be applying to like an IDEA award with special focus or an impact award. You're going to put together a very short, abbreviated version of what you're going to propose to do. For the IDEA award with special focus, for instance, you're going to do a one-page pre-application. For the Translational Team Science Award, you're going to do a 3-page pre-application. And then there's some supporting documents like bio sketches and some references and so on. So what you're going to do is you're going to submit those by the deadline, and then we're going to have a pre-application screening and invitation to submit. When we do that pre-application screening, that's done by the Programmatic panel. Now, if you want to see who's on our Programmatic panel, I invite you to go to our CDMRP website, and I'll show you where you can do that in a moment. You can go to the CDMRP website, you can go to our research programs, and you can look under PRCRP. When you go there, you will find that you can look at the Programmatic panel. Now, you might say when you're looking at it, maybe you're an expert in sarcoma, and you're looking at it and you're like, there's no sarcoma experts on this panel. Should I really apply to this program under cancers that affect children, adolescents, and young adults? The answer is yes, because during the Programmatic panel pre-application screening, and once again later on when we get to the Programmatic review, we will bring in ad hocs to ensure that we have that expertise. Just make sure that you follow the directions in the program announcement. After pre-application screening, you'll get an invitation to submit, and then we'll have application receipt. Application receipt happens mainly through Grants.gov. Then we come to our crown jewel of this whole process, and that's the peer review and the Programmatic review. That's our two-tiered review system that the National Academy of Medicine, once called the IOM, recommended that we use, that two-tiered review system. And I'm going to talk in length about that in a moment. After the review is finished, the next thing that happens is the funding recommendations go to our commanding general for approval. And then finally, we have award negotiations and award management throughout the lifetime of the award. Now we go to the next slide, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the peer and programmatic review, how this two-tiered funding process actually works. The first tier is peer review. The second tier is programmatic review. They are in different columns here because they are separate entities. The peer reviewers are not the same people as the programmatic reviewers, and so forth. Programmatic reviewers do not sit on peer review. They are two different bodies. Peer reviewers come to us, we make those panels up every single year. They're brand new panels. The programmatic review panel members sit on the panel for a couple of years. But there's a partnership there. You can see that bridge there. It's a partnership between these two. And I'm going to talk about the differences and how they are similar on the next slide. When we go to the next slide, we can see the first tier of review is peer review. What is peer review? You all know what study sections are, but let me explain a little bit about how it works for CDMRP. As I said, we don't have standing panels, so we don't have people come in for a specific study section per se. But we do have reviewers. The reviewers will be clinicians, they'll be research scientists, they'll be consumers, and they will be active duty service members. They will come to the table to discuss the technical merit of the proposal. How do they review that? They review it based on the program announcement, but what they're looking for is that ideal application. They do not compare their application. I often tell them, I do not want to hear this was the best application I reviewed. No, they're reviewing it against a gold standard, and that's really important to note. This is just about that gold standard. How would you review this? There's criteria from research strategy to innovation to transition plans and impact and so on. And what we do through that is that the peer reviewer is actually going to be looking at that and looking at the strengths and the weaknesses for that specific application. Once that's all done, we end up with what we call the outcome of a summary statement, which will have numeric scores as well as verbiage, which lays out the strengths and the weaknesses for this application. Now, the identities are not known while the peer review is going on. I apologize for that. Hold on. The peer reviewers are not known. Their names are not known until after the peer review is done. If you go to the next slide, I'm going to talk to you about the second tier of review. The second tier of review is programmatic review, how that evaluation process works. That evaluation process works by this is the second tier. So this is a more high level tier where we're looking at the forest for the trees. So we are actually looking at the 30,000 foot level, and the programmatic reviewers are looking at those summary statements, balancing out the portfolio. This is a comparison-based review where the programmatic reviewers are looking at different ones in like liver cancer. I have one that's really well scored and one that's mediocre scored, one that's poorly scored. Which one should we get? Now we might actually have two that are pretty highly scored there, but we can only fund one more in that topic area because we do try to fund in every single topic area. And we have funded in every single topic area throughout the years except for one. And that one topic area was radiation protection utilizing nanotechnology. No scientific meritorious applications came in for that one topic area. But the panel does make a strong effort to make sure that they're balancing out the portfolio. That doesn't necessarily mean that every single topic area is going to get equal amount of money towards it, okay? Because, like for instance, mesothelioma usually has a handful, maybe 2 handfuls of applications, while melanoma has 70, 80 applications. Obviously, melanoma is probably going to be funded more than mesothelioma is going to be funded, but we do make sure that we fund mesothelioma as well. and we do balance it out. So that's really important that we have a consideration of our portfolio composition, our program relevance, which is all about military relevance, that potential for impact. So the outcome for that second tier of review are those funding recommendations. So if you go to the next slide, how do you get in on this, okay? The very first thing you want to do is you want to go to the funding opportunities on the CDMRP website. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit, but what I really want you to be doing is to be paying attention to that URL, which is right in the middle of the screen. Please write that down. What you want to do is you want to click on that funding opportunities and open up where you're going to go as far as looking for funding opportunities that are currently open on the CDMRP website. You can also find these on the Grants.gov. If you go to the next slide, I'll show you how to get it, how to find them on Grants.gov. You see where it says that CFDA number? You put in 12.420, and you'll find all of the funding opportunities that are currently being offered by the CDMRP. So, PRCRP will be under that. So keep a look at that. If you go to the next slide, then what are the funding opportunities for PRCRP this year? So they were released at the beginning of May. So it's really important that you go and take a look at those right now. So we have the IDEA Award with Special Focus, the Impact Award, the Translational Team Science Award, and the Career Development Award. I'm going to talk about those first three, and then I'll talk about the Career Development Award, because the Career Development Award is slightly different than those first three. Those first three require that you write a pre-application, a 1 to 3 page pre-application, depending on the funding opportunity. You have to write that pre-application, and then you will be invited, okay? If you are not invited, then I'm sorry, you should try again next year. The IDEA Award with Special Focus is all about innovation, okay? The researchers at the level of faculty level appointment are eligible, and we're talking about that high risk, high gain research with an emphasis really on innovation. People ask me often, what is innovation? What do you want? What are you looking for exactly for that? What I'm going to tell you now is that for innovation, what we're really looking for, I cannot tell you, okay? Because innovation is just like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder. And therefore, it is your job as the grant writer to explain to me why this is the most innovative. So it's really ends up being in your court to explain to me why it's the most innovative thing out there. Okay, and that's important for the IDEA Award with Special Focus. You don't have to have preliminary data for this one, so that's important to note as well. You don't have to have that preliminary data, but please have a sound rationale behind it. You can't just throw it out there and expect the reviewers to understand your mindset. The reviewers have to understand where you're coming from. Okay, so I have on there that the special focus is on military relevance, and you'll notice all the way through I have it underlined, military relevance, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about that in a moment. That IDEA Award with Special Focus is for $400,000 over a 2-year period. That doesn't mean you're going to get $400K the first year and $400K the second year. What it means is that you have $400K for 2 years. So you have to split it out however you need it for the research over those 2 years. The Impact Award is a new award mechanism for this year, and we're really excited about this because we're trying to look for some continuity here. The eligibility is for assistant professor or above. We're supporting research projects or ideas that specifically focus on critical scientific and critical cancer care issues, which if successfully addressed, have the potential to make a major impact. We want to push the field forward. We just don't want to go incrementally. We want to do a huge push onward. So that's what the Impact Award is really doing. You have to have preliminary data, strong preliminary data for the Impact Award. Emphasis once again on military relevance, and that's a direct cost for $1 million over 3 years. So that's a pretty high level award. We're looking for high level, strong applications there. This is not just a resubmittal of your R01. The Translational Team Science Award is our collaborative award. We like to call it our Synergy Award. We're looking for assistant level professors or above, 2 to 3 PIs partnering together. They'll each get their own award that will all add up to $1 million amongst the partners over 4 years. And what we're looking to do is do that correlative studies that are associated with ongoing or completed clinical trials. We will offer clinical trial support with this award mechanism, but you do have to do a clinical strategy attachment to your application. Once again, the emphasis here is on the military relevance. Okay, so those are the 3 that you need to be invited for. The last one is the Career Development Award. You do not need to be invited for this one in order to apply for it. You must be an independent investigator within 10 years of your terminal degree. That means if you got your degree in 2010, you're within that 10-year period. If you got your degree in 2007, but you did a 3-year residency, you're still within that 10 years. Residency as well as medical leave, family medical leave, it does not count against that 10 years. So please make sure to reflect that in your bio sketch. You have to have a career guide at the level of an associate professor. This career guide is going to mentor you through all of the wickets of getting through your career and help you as a mentor in a way for doing cancer research. It's going to support impactful research, and the preliminary data for this one is not required, and the direct costs are $360K over 3 years. Once again, we have a focus on military relevance. Now, if you go to the next slide, I'm going to talk to you about that military relevance. I've been teasing how's cancer all militarily relevant. We're going to talk to you about this now. Lots of people say to me, how can this be militarily relevant, especially since I'm doing studies in something that's specific for pediatric cancers? How can that be militarily relevant? Well, I'm going to show you the 2 focus areas that we have for military relevance are shown here. And the first one is the military relevant risk factors associated with cancer. That's environmental exposures. That's easy. Okay, that's an easy one. If you have mesothelioma, if you're going to apply for something that's mesothelioma, for instance, okay, asbestos, maybe shipyards, got it. Environmental exposures, right? But what do you do if you're doing something with a childhood cancer? Well, you go to mission readiness. Mission readiness is really important for us because if the service member is ill, now 86% of our service members are qualify as young adults. So they qualify in that area. So if our service member gets ill, the service member gets ill with colorectal cancer or blood cancer or liver cancer, stomach cancer, whatnot, then we have a problem about mission readiness because that service member within that unit is a critical part of that unit. Do not be fooled that taking one person out of that unit is not a problem. It is. It's always a problem. We are all critical for mission readiness and force readiness. Now, say it's a service member's spouse or service member's child that's ill. It's not the service member themselves, so they have to be mission ready, right? No. Okay. Can you imagine if you're a service member, you're deployed, and your child is ill? You're not 100% in the mission. Our force is not 100% ready. So mission readiness is an issue. Now, if you want to talk more about this and discuss more about this, I suggest you go to that CDMRP website. You go to research programs, go to PRCRP, and click on that. And the first thing that will open up is on the right-hand side, you will see an icon for our program book. Click on that, and there's a detailed discussion about mission readiness in military relevance for a cancer program. We go to the next slide then. Now we get to what you're all looking for, the strategies for success. What we like to call in research administration, we like to call this grantsmanship. We want everybody here to get really good grantsmanship. So let's go to the next slide and talk about what that grantsmanship is all about. First of all, I'm going to ignore most of the slides. I'm going to tell you to go down to the very bottom of that slide. And the single most important tip that I'm going to tell you today is to read the announcement carefully, all the way through, okay? It's going to be hard, okay? I want you to print it out the old-fashioned way. I want you to get your highlighter, and I want you to get one of those tabs. And I want you to tab it. I want you to highlight it. Yes, you can do that on and you can do the PDF. I understand that. But I'm telling you, it's so much better to have it printed out and circle things and scribble things. If you have questions, scribble them out. That's really important, okay? So really what you want to do is you want to look at the award information. You want to look at the focus areas. What's the award intent? What are my eligibility? Am I eligible for a career development award? Am I or not? Let me go and look, okay? Maybe I should be looking at the IDEA award with special focus instead, okay? Oh, do I need to look at the review criteria? Most PIs say no. I'm not going to look at the review criteria because I'm not reviewing my grant. No, please. What you're going to look at, this is a nice little tip here. Look at your project narrative, what we're asking in the project narrative. Then go over to the review criteria. Let's use the IDEA award with special focus as an example. In the project narrative, you'll go over into the scientific merit section of the peer review criteria. And you will notice that everything that we ask for you in the project narrative, we now ask a question about whether or not it's there, and then we ask the peer reviewer to evaluate it. So if you have missed one of those things, you've actually given the peer reviewer a weakness for them to point out. So it's really important for you to read the entire programmatic program announcement all the way through, including the review criteria. It's also important for you to note that any of our program panel members should not be included on your in your application, and you can see that their names on our website again. Go to the next slide, please. Some strategies for success. Some importance. Is your proposal relevant? Take a look at the award information. Take a look at what we're looking for. It has to make an impact. Even if it's a basic science study, you should be able to translate that and communicate that to us and tell us why it's going to make an impression and an important value-added change in a patient's care. Now, it might not make it today, but long-term is okay to discuss as well. So make sure that you're proposing important solutions to those problems that we have today. Clearly articulate the translatability. What I like to tell people is that many different programs, programs try to get this through to people. How to talk about impact, how to talk about innovation. But I say go back in the day when you were told to write something for your class, literature class or something like that. And they tell you to show, don't tell. Demonstrate it. Don't just tell me it's innovative, demonstrate it as to why it's innovative. That's an important part. I'm using that a lot. I'm using that word important part a lot, but it's important for you to note it. Okay, so let's talk about feasibility. You want that expertise. If you don't happen to be an expert in some part of your application that you're proposing, get the expert and get them to collaborate and give you a letter. Ensure the study is appropriately powered. And that means bringing in a biostatistician not 15 minutes before you're going to submit. That biostatistician should be with you as a partner all the way through. In fact, put them on your budget, give them a little bit, and justify it. That's the way to do it. Demonstrate the availability and access to those critical resources and reagents and study populations, because if you're not able to demonstrate that, then that's going to be a major weakness that you're going to have to deal with. If you go to the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit more about those strategies for success and about planning and timelines, okay? Timelines are rigid. This is the Department of Defense. Timelines are rigid. Please do not ask me to accept your application at 1 minute after the hour that it's due. I have to say no. That's the rule. That's an acquisition rule. I cannot break it. Okay. Last year we did have some issues because of all the hurricanes, and we did allow for some people that were affected by the hurricane to come in, and that is an extenuating circumstance. The fact that you couldn't get a flight is not an extenuating circumstance. The fact that your tire blew out on the way to work is not an extenuating circumstance. I'm sorry. It has to be something that is much larger. So please plan your timeline. Please do not try to do it all in the last 15 minutes. You need to know how to use Grants.gov workspace. Please go ahead and look at that, how to do it. Grants.gov has tutorials on how to use the workspace. Figure it out early, therefore you won't have to have issues. Your grantsmanship is explained with clarity and unburdened by jargon. You can imagine that lots and lots of abbreviations and scientific jargon gets a reviewer tired. It makes it more difficult to review something. Communicate effectively. And finally, review your application before you submit it. We do have a verification period where you can go in and take a look and make sure that you have all the components. Be compliant. I cannot, like I said, I cannot break a deadline because you had to go and visit somebody in the hospital. I can't. It's not allowed. I just can't. I apologize for that, but it's not allowed. We go to the next slide. Some of the pitfalls that I'd like you to avoid is do not put the programmatic panel members for this program and this fiscal year in your application, okay? If you are collaborating with them and you have to put it on support that you have done in the past, or if you published with them in the past, that's all okay. But don't tell me, oh, I'm going to be working with, Dr. Kudish out of New Mexico for this certain sample. No, you can't do that. He's part of the programmatic panel. It's not allowed. Okay. Do not exceed the page limits and check your files after creating the PDF. Also, make sure that all of the people that are collaborating on your application, they're all using the same Adobe version. It's important. Do not miss the application deadline. I don't know how many times I can say this, and it's really it is critical because I can't let you in a minute after. And submit the correct project narrative and budget, because these components cannot be modified during that verification period. You have a deadline on Grants.gov deadline, and then we have a verification period where you can go in and make sure that all the components are there. Oh, I forgot to put in my SOW, or I forgot to the innovation is in the wrong attachment area. I have to put it in like attachment 6 instead of attachment 7 and flip those. That type of stuff, you can do that type of stuff, but you cannot modify the project narrative or the budget during the verification period. It's not allowed. Going to the next slide. Once again, you can see on this next slide on the very top the URL for CDMRP. You can see underneath the CDMRP logo on the left-hand side, you can see a toolbar. You can see the research programs. That's where you'll go to find the peer-reviewed cancer research program page. And right next to that is the funding opportunities. You can go there and look for open opportunities, or you can go down farther where it says for investigators with a little check mark and look for open funding opportunities there, or to start your pre-application. And I think that's all I have today, and I would be more than welcome to take questions.
If there are any questions, please submit them in the chat box. We did get a question about receiving a copy of the slides and the presentation, and that will be sent out following the call today. If there are any other questions, please type them here.
What I can say is that it's important for everyone to take a look at the award mechanisms. We have the new award mechanism, the impact mechanism. If you have questions after this that come up, you can go to the back of each and every one of those funding opportunities, those program announcements, and we have a help desk that you can click on that help desk, and you can go and you can submit email questions directly to the help desk. If the help desk can't tell you where to find the answer in the program announcement, they'll contact me, and I'll be able to discuss with you anything that has anything that's a problem. So keep that in mind. There are different resources.
And Dr. Kimbark, there is a question that says, is there a database which has details on cancer incidence, prevalence among military service members and their families?
There is not one that is easily accessible for outside of the DoD. What I suggest you go to is you can go to the PRCRP page. Go to that page, and you can click on what we have is the reports to Congress. You scroll down a little bit and look for reports to Congress. You can click on that and you can read some of our reports to Congress, and some of those reports to Congress will have references that you can use to move forward with incidence rates and so on.
Thank you. Any other questions? Dr. Kimbark, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate all of the information. And thank you to everyone who joined the webinar today.
Thank you very much.